Hello, my crafty friends. I was telling my daughter this morning that I wanted to practice on the techniques I was wanting to use on the Mermaid journal for Laurie Richardson on the cover. And because I didn't want to just jump into the cover and not know if those techniques are even going to work. And my daughter had a great idea. She said, why don't you practice on some tags? And that way you're not, you've got something to practice on. If they turn out great, you're actually making something. So that's what I'm going to do today, which gives you a sneak peek at the kinds of things I might be going to do on the cover. Um, First thing I'm going to do is put some alcohol ink onto some transparency acetate, and that I'm going to use with these two different ways I'm looking at doing it on the cover. So I'm going to try those out, and then we're going to do some other stuff on these tags, but we're going to start with these right here. And I'm going to move the tags out of the way and just get the acetate here. And one thing I'm going to do, let's do it this way because I want to use the same color on one piece for each one with the alcohol inks. And then I'll do the other stuff later. Let me find my brush. Okay. This is the brush I used before. I need it to be really dry though if I'm going to do alcohol ink with it. Maybe I ought to choose a different brush. I just didn't really want to mess up another brush. Let's dry it off as good as we can here. I think that'll be all right. We'll find out if it's not. Okay, what I want to do is cover these pieces of acetate with this color. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. And then let's see if we can... Let me get some alcohol, actually, and try to get some of this off. Wasn't thinking about that it would mix the two colors when I move on to the next color, because it will reactivate that color. So I'm just spraying some alcohol on the brush, and then I'm gonna get out as much of the... Ooh, it really works. And that may be a mixture of the two before, because I practiced one other time to even see if you could get any, if it would even stick to the acetate. Be sure if you're using this alcohol in a spray like that you've got ventilation going. I've got ventilation going in here. That's real important. Okay, now then we're gonna... This was Mermaid, appropriate, don't you think? And this one is Sailboat Blue. So okay. I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use the Mermaid because I'm almost out of that Sailboat Blue in a minute when I'm trying something else that I've never tried before. So y'all get to see all my experiments. Okay, there's that. And that one. There's these two. Okay. Now then, is that relatively dry? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to set these, I'm going to end up putting one over the top of the other one to make it, make them look dimensional. But I want to keep which side has the alcohol on it up, so I don't forget that, because that's going to be important at the end. I need the side without alcohol on it to be on the outside so that I don't end up messing it up. So we'll put those up there. And then I need to get out my goodies that I'm going to put down inside of them. I should have. Now I'm trying to remember what I did with those. I'm going to pause the video just a second while okay, I found them. So now I have to decide what things I want to go in here. This one, actually I'm going to do it like this, because I'm going to cover up the colored part. And then I need to put something cute in there. How about a starfish? And a itty bitty itty bitty little seahorse. I think that'll look good. Okay, so we want to set those aside for this one. And then we'll do some coral. And let's see. An even tinier seahorse. On this one. And then we'll put that over the top of it. Okay, that needs to be down. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting this little bit of stuff off. There we go. We'll put this down closer to the bottom of the window. Maybe not that far down, because we are going to add some stuff to it. Okay. And I think I need some coral on this one too, because all I did was stick some. Here we go. Here's a little bit. Okay. Let's put this down here close to the bottom. And the starfish maybe kind of behind it a little bit. We want to make it look as dimensional as we can. And then the seahorse up here. Okay, I think I like that. So on this one, I'm going to take all these things off, and I'm going to glue this down with the side that I did not paint on glued down, because we want it to be where if somebody touches it or something gets spilled on or something, it doesn't activate um, that alcohol ink. So we want all the alcohol ink to be trapped inside our tag. Okay. And on this one, we're going to put these things on the white instead of on the green. So we need to glue those things down. I'm trying two different methods here because I'm not sure which one will work the best. So and I'd lot rather try it on a little tag and not be exactly excited about it than to do it on the cover and be unhappy. So okay. Now where did I put that? No, here it is. Now I want to go ahead and glue this down on there too. And this time it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and do the alcohol side down, because what I'm fixing to do, it might give it a different dimensionality, however you say that. Okay. So the next step is to use, I'm going to draw some kelp going up with my Posca pen. This is mixed media, so it's going to all be about layers. And I haven't, okay. I'm hoping that with this one, you know, it'll look good from both sides. This one, you know, you only have to look at it from one side. I mean, the other side will have something on it, but it won't be the underwater scene. It'll be something else. And this one should look, you know, the kelp will be in front of the creatures from this side and behind them from this side. So I'm hoping that that'll make it more interesting. And let's go ahead and draw one over here, since I'm kind of having fun. I'm sorry, sometimes I forget and talk too softly. Sorry about that. All right, now we got to let that dry. We'll do the same thing on this one, except this time the kelp's obviously going to be coming from in front of things if I get it over them. So I'm going to just kind of be careful where I place it. This is kind of fun. And let's just do a small one right here. Okay. I think I want another one back here. All right. Now then, we'll put that one up there to dry, and let's see if this one's dry yet. Not completely. Okay, I'm just going to let these dry a minute, and then I'll be back. Okay, this is dry, and I just spent 15 minutes looking for the silly pin that goes in here. I cannot find it anywhere. I mean, it's not like it could go very far, you know, but I can't find it. I had to put another pin in it, which is not as good, and will probably rust, so I'm going to have to find that pin, but anyway, it's very frustrating. I realized also that I had put the alcohol ink side up on this one, and I really needed to put it this way and then draw in here so I could put my stuff in here. And then put this way with alcohol ink down, and then it would be protected on both sides. But I didn't do it that way, so we're going to be stuck doing this differently. So that's something to think about. I just did it absolutely backwards. Anyway, we're going to just go on. We're not going to fret over it. And I'm going to use a little bit of this glue, and it should dry clear. Hopefully it will, and then it won't really show up. So and we're going to make this the top side of the tag. I'm hoping it'll look nice from both sides, but this particular piece won't look as good from one side as it does from the other, so it'll mostly be hidden by the, or part of it will be anyway, hidden by the starfish, so maybe it won't matter. And I probably should have put less glue on each of those because they don't have to be, you know, they're going to be sandwiched, and so it's not really a big deal. Okay, now we're going to glue this one on top. And so that makes them look like they're actually in the water, not on top of the water. That's my thought, anyway. So let's go ahead and put some glue on here and make sure I've got the inky side down. Okay, we're going to let that dry, and we'll come back and work on it again in a minute. And this one, I'm just going to put this ink side down right on top of there, and we'll have the same kind of effect. But this time we put our stuff underneath there, so there's 2 layers of water over it instead of just one. Does that make sense? Which makes it look like it's a little more in the background. Okay. And we're going to let that one dry too a while. Put it up here as well. And I'm going to move these off. And we're going to play with something else on these other tags. And we're going to work on this side. This is kind of slick, so I'm going to put gesso on it. And I don't know if that's necessary. I might could just, let me just sandpaper it a little bit. Maybe that'll be enough. I just want the stuff to stick. Okay. And I'm going to just hang this over the trash can and use my paper on it so that it won't get all over the table. Wipe it off here. I'm just going to do all 3 of them like that. Okay. Now then, let's stick my makeshift alternate pin in here. Uh-oh. It went in real good a minute ago. There we go. Okay. Now what I want to do is put, I'm trying out 2 different things with plaster. And I've worked with plaster a lot, but not in art. I used to work for an orthodontist, and I made plaster casts of people's teeth all the time. So I've played with plaster a lot, but not this way. And I've never tried to color it, and I'm going to try to color it. So we'll see how that goes. With this one, I want to try to use some of this just for kicks, because I got it at the thrift store and I've never used it. And it's stuff like they put on a plaster cast. They, wrap your arm up in it. So we're gonna wrap this tag in it just for kicks. I don't know how it'll work. It does make a mess. Okay. And I'm not sure how to do it other than just wet it down and wrap it around here so that it connects to itself and kind of, covers this up. And I think I want more layers on the front. So I'm gonna, I don't guess it'll really matter what the front is on this one. Not sure what that is. I think I'm gonna cut that little bit out. I don't think it'll make a big difference if it's not there, but it might do something if it's there, and I don't want to. There we go. Okay. That might not be a good idea. It's just right in the place where it's going to end up being an issue. All right, let's just fold it and see. If I do this, then I come back around. Nope, see, just not quite. It's going to leave a hole. Okay, well, if we put the hole in the middle of the back, we can cover it up with something. So let's just do that. Oh, that really does leave plaster everywhere. All right. I'm going to pause and go dampen this down a little bit. I'll be right back. Okay, I just went and got some water. And I'm just going to lay this in there and get it wet. Should have looked on the internet to see how to use this stuff, but I didn't. I'm hoping that just getting it wet will be enough to activate that plaster. Let's do it this way. I may end up needing to put another layer on. I think I'm going to. We're going to let that just sit there for a minute while I get another piece. Why not? It's not like it's precious or something that I can't use more of it. Okay. Yeah, I think another layer is a good idea. But let me find some place to lay that while I do this. Okay. Now I'm just going to kind of mash it together here and we're going to let it sit over there and dry. Okay. Okay. So on these two, I'm just wanting to put some plaster actually right on here, just kind of goop it on and then put some seashells, kind of mash them down into the plaster and see if it'll hold them on. Because that's another thing I'm wanting to do on the cover if it works. And like I said, I've never tried to do this. So I need to find my shells real quick. I bought this bucket at the thrift store for $1, and it has seashells in it. A lot of them are big, and some of them, like this one, are broken, and there's, you know, all kinds of stuff in there. I meant to clean them out before I showed y'all, but looks like somebody had a dog. Or they cleaned out their vacuum cleaner over it or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to try to find some of these things. Some of them are like, you know, are a good enough shape. I want to use them on the cover of the journal. And some of them are broken. So I thought I could put a broken one on this tag and then just cover up the that's yucky. There's even a screw in here. I really should have looked through this first. Really should have looked through this first. That one's pretty. This is going to be a very dimensional tag. And there's a little bitty one. I think I'm going to use these two that are broken. Well, that one's too much broken. These two. And kind of let that be our basis. That'll be pretty. But I'm hoping they will end up looking like they're embedded in the ocean floor. I mean, in the ocean, you know, because, oh, look, there's a part of a tiny little starfish. Some of these are nothing special, but they'll kind of give the look that we want. So there's most of a tiny starfish. I'm going to save that for one of those other tags. There's a little shell. There's one. I like these that are kind of green. They may be too fat. Some of them, like that one, is really, really fat. So we'll save it for a different project. Oh, that's pretty. That one's pretty too. We'll save that one for the front. Another itty-bitty starfish. It's a teeny tiny one. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, that ought to be good enough to play with these. And then I want some beads. Okay. I want some beads to go on there too. Okay, I've got these beads. I think will be pretty in there. Put a little bling. These are just Dollar Tree beads. They're not anything special. Okay. And of course they've got it taped. Oh, that's the wrong way. That's the wrong way, Lisa. Okay. Let's just make a mess right off the bat. Okay. Not a big deal. I've definitely done worse. Okay. All right. Now then. Get the plaster. And they don't sell this in a little something. The only other time I bought it, I mean, of course, we bought it, you know, by 50-pound bags at the orthodontist office, but this is 8 pounds for $8. And so it should be enough for all of my plaster needs. Now, if you're mixing up a lot of this stuff, you really need to wear a mask. But I'm just mixing little bits, and I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mix 2 different kinds of coloring in for these 2 tags, and then I'll do the other 2 when I do those 2 tags. But I want to try 4 different kinds of ways to color it. And I'm going to start with the alcohol ink, which may not work. Let's get the plaster made first, and then we'll add the alcohol ink to it. I'm going to add the acrylic ink just to the water. Okay, let's see what the amounts are here. Okay, 1 pound of plaster and 11 ounces of water. Okay, well, we're just going to do about 1 ounce of water here. And I'm going to go ahead and put some of this. This is Daler Rowney Blue. And we're going to put that in with this. Oh, that ought to be plenty. And then we're going to use my measuring cup here. And I'm going to do this over the plaster, so if I miss it, it'll go back into the bucket. Okay. Now I'm going to just stir this up, and we'll add more plaster as we need to, which is going to be a lot. I should have put less water. We want it thin enough to spread, but we don't want it to run off, so. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. It feels more like plaster. Okay, we're just going to put this on one side of the tag, so. Okay. I want to cover the whole tag. And I want more at the bottom to press my stuff into. I may glue something on top of the part up at the top, but it can be a lot thinner. Okay, let's put a starfish down here. I'm going to put enough of this underneath there that it has support. Same thing this under this leg, because those will just break right off if they don't have support. Enough here to kind of hold that in place. Clean this off, because if I don't, it will be stuck. And I like it. I don't want to ruin it. So, okay. Let's stick a shell there. And one there. One of these little green ones right there. Stick that little bit of a starfish just coming out from there. Oh no, that won't work because he won't have support. Okay. Put some of these. Do a few more of these, and then we'll let it sit and dry. I do need to clean out that hole, though, before it dries. Let's see if this will work. There we go. Okay, there's one. We're going to just leave it like that. See what happens. Kind of looks like that. I wish that didn't stick off the end. I didn't realize it till just now. Anyway, we're going to leave that alone. And we're going to clean this off a little bit. One thing about working with plaster, if you mix up too much, you just got too much. You can't save it for something else, so it's gone. It's done. Okay, now I want to try this with the alcohol ink, but I'm going to mix it up first and then mix the ink in with it. Let's see if it'll even work. Should have lessened my amount of water this time because I knew I had too much last time. Ooh, may have got it too thick. Yeah, let's add a little bit of water. Oh, way too much. Pour off a little bit of that. It's probably still going to be too much. This is a little bit thinner. But we're just going to go with it. Ooh, that's a lot. But it barely did anything. Okay. Well, it's a pretty color, but it's very pale. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more. I don't know if the alcohol in that ink will mess up the plaster setting up. I don't have any idea. Purely an experiment here. Okay. This is much thinner, so it's going to it'll have a different texture and take longer to dry. Okay, let's go ahead and open up that hole real quick. Okay. Let's push him down in there. And we're going to put this one over the top of that to kind of hide it. Hide the fact that it's broken. These are going to be very dimensional. She may not even want them in the butt. They may just have to go as an extra thing. Of course, if they don't work, then we won't have to worry about it at all, will we? Okay, I'm going to move this over here and clean this off. And now we'll add some beads. I have a lot of extra plaster for that one too. Okay. Okay. Okay, here's this one. It's still not dry. And here's this one. I'll come back and add on at the end of the video when those are dry. I'm going to set them aside over here to dry. This is a little bit different than the plaster that we used. It always got hot. And these don't seem to be doing that, so I don't know. I'm just gonna, let me look in here and see what it says. Okay, let dry at least 30 minutes. Remove from the mold and then dry for 24 hours. So we'll just need to let it dry for 24 hours. I don't know. Anyway, we will see if the adding the coloring into it, you know, messed it up. And I think I'm going to let wait on that before I put any plaster on these other two, because I don't want to mess them up by using plaster on them if it's not going to work. So let me get this one back over here and look at it. Here's the one we used with our plastic casting material, and it definitely hardened up. That's going to be fun to use on a journal page or something sometime. But for right now, we're using it on this, and it'll need to dry completely, and then we'll paint it and do stuff to it too. So we'll just let everything dry, and we'll finish this off later. Bye-bye. Well, don't bye-bye. You'll be back in just a minute. I'll be back later. Okay, I'm back, and these are dry. Here's this one, and it dried nicely. It's very creamy looking. I really like it. The only problem is it bowed. You see that right there? And that's because it was so wet. There was so much water in it that it bent the cardboard. This one, it's grainier. I don't like it quite as much. It probably looks more like sand, but I'm wanting it to look more like water. So it didn't bow quite as much as the other one because it wasn't quite as wet. I'm wondering if I had gessoed these, if that would have protected it enough that it wouldn't have bowed so bad. I don't know. I may put some gesso on these and let it dry, and then try to put the plaster on them and see. They are dimensional. I don't know if you can see, you know, how dimensional. But they're really pretty. I really like them. I think it was a win. It's just I don't know if you'd want them inside a journal because they're so thick. So I don't know. But I'm not looking at something that's, you know, this is a test for something I'm going to do on the cover. So it, you know, for the cover, it'll probably work fine unless it bows the cover, which I don't want. So we'll try the gesso on these and see if it makes a difference. Plus on the cover, I'm not going to be doing the whole solid thing. I'm going to be doing, you know, around the edges. So that might make a difference too. And this one that I use, the plaster casting stuff, wrap, um, it looks really cool. I haven't done anything to it yet. I haven't painted on it or anything. I'll play with it later, but it made a really sturdy, tag. So that's kind of interesting. Stick that up there because I'm not worried about that right now. Okay, so let's get some gesso and put it on here and see what we can do. I've got this Master's Touch acrylic gesso. It's a medium body acrylic gesso. Um, and I've used this before, and it was really, I really liked it. So when I ran out of my homemade gesso, or I thought I was running out, I do still have a little bit left, but I decided to try this again and see if I like it better than my homemade before I make some more. Because I haven't been just terribly happy with my homemade gesso this time. When I made it the first time, I really liked it. And I don't know if that's because I didn't know enough about gesso when I made it the first time to be discerning, or if it really was that my first batch turned out better. I think I need some wax paper. Ah! I'm making a mess trying to not make a mess. Okay, that's almost gone. That's part of the problem, is it doesn't weigh enough anymore. Okay, I'm just using what's on the cover of this to but anyway, like I said, I'm not sure if my homemade gesso the first time just turned out better, or if I just am pickier now than I was then. That was when I first started doing mixed media stuff, and I hadn't used any of this yet. Since then, I've used this, and I've used Liquitex, and the Liquitex is too well, it's too gritty. I don't like how gritty it is. So that's another reason I made some more of my own, because I didn't like it. And besides the fact that it's cheaper, and I had the marble dust. But I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't happy last time. So it was okay, and it worked. I used it, but it just, I don't know, there was something about it that didn't feel right on the page. Okay, I'm not going to worry about this being perfectly squared off, because it's kind of an organic thing. We want to let it be that way. Okay, make sure that's really clean before I put that back on it. Now I've got some extra here I need to use on something, so let's see. Let's cut a big tag here and use it on it. Punch a hole. Ugh. There we go. Looking at this, I'm wondering if I use maybe not a thick enough white paint in my homemade gesso. and it thinned it down too much. And then when I added enough stuff to thicken it up, I lessened how white it is. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Anyway, I'll still use it for stuff. I just want to use the best I've got available for this while I'm checking out how it works. We'll be right back when these dry. Okay, these are dry and well, pretty good. And I decided I'm going to try on these some homemade texture paste and some of the spackling instead of the plaster, and then we can compare all those things. Because one of my thoughts about the spackling and the homemade texture paste is that they wouldn't stay on maybe as well as the plaster, but I don't know that that's true. And they're both inexpensive alternatives, so we're just going to put some on here and see what happens. I didn't color this. I decided I would well, to be honest, I just forgot I was going to color it. So we're just going to do this one like it is, and I can paint it later. And I want to leave it real textured-y because I want it to look like movement. I didn't know how well this, you know, if I embedded stuff in it, it would stay. So we're going to find out. Oops. I'm just going to put it all on here, and then I'm going to maybe add a shell or two and a few beads. I'm not going to do as much to this as I did to that other one. Because I don't want the beads and stuff to be the focal point. I want the little aquarium looking part to be the focal point. Okay, let's see if I can clean that out. Okay, let's see. There we go. Oh, I missed a little bit right there. All right, let's go ahead and get some few of these beads on there. And I had this one little starfish I think I'm going to put on there. I can do it without breaking it. Oh, see, that's the problem with not coloring it. This one's just gonna, I don't know. I think I'm gonna skip on the beads and find another little shell or two to put on it, because I do want to be able to paint it. I found these tiny little shells at Dollar Tree in a pretty glass bottle. So of course I had to have them, as much for the bottle as for the shells. I don't know if the Dollar Tree still has those or not, but let's at least put a few on here. Okay, I don't think that's, whoops, quite enough of that for a shell to embed in. So we'll add some more. Because we want it to stay. see. One more there. Okay. And now then, go smooth off around the edges. But I want the edges to be covered. All right. Now I'm going to set that one up there and let it dry. And put this up. I think a fresher bottle probably would work better. Oh, sorry, Cubby. Buddy, go move by the door, please. I won't run over you that way. That's a good boy. Go lay down. Go lay down. Okay. My homemade is a little bit thick too. Let's see if I can just thin it down a little bit. I don't know if that'll be enough to really do much, but okay. I hope these work, because I'd hate to have to toss them just because the stuff didn't stick to them. I'll make sure I cover up where I put the gesso. Forgot we're going to stick some shells down here, so I'm going to leave some space to do that. Sorry, I'm needing something to put it on to support it while I do this. Okay. Let's see if we can make it a little less. Nope. Okay. We can't. It's just going to be sandy looking. That's all right. I have another one of these little starfish I'm going to stick on this one. And then, let's see what else we can find in here. Need some flatter ones. There aren't many that are flat, so. Okay, I think that's enough. once again, I'm going to have to let this dry. So it's maybe a 4-day video. Doesn't usually take me this long to make videos, but this one's going to have to dry a while. So, alrighty, I'll be back when it's dry. Hello, my crafty friends. I finally got the homemade texture paste and the spackling to dry. So, so I'm going to paint both of these, and then we'll see how that looks. I'm going to start by painting this one with this Anita's Metallic Topaz is the color. I love this color. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful metallic color, and I think it'll be pretty on here. And this time I'm gonna leave this down here, and we may paint it kind of a sandy color instead of painting it, you know, the color of water, because the point of putting the shells on there is to make it look like the ocean floor. So I think the both the texture paste and the spackling seem to be decently adhered. I think the spackling probably is a little more durable than that homemade texture paste. So when I do the cover of the book, I will either use the plaster. The thing I worry about the plaster is this bowing, but the feel of it and the permanency of it are really good. And so I will either use that, or I'll use this the spackling, because it did pretty good. I would just get a new deal of spackling, because this one was pretty old, and I think a fresher one would probably work better. But I like the look of all the swoopiness, you know, once it's colored to look like water. I think that looks good. And it'll make it a little less sharp looking, I think, to have the paint over it. It's not easy to get in all the little crevices. But I think it's covering really nicely. The paint seems to be sticking to it really well. And it's not, you know, coming off while I paint it, which is what I was afraid might happen. Let's go ahead and paint the edges. When you turn it at an angle, you can see places that you missed. So it's probably a good idea to paint the edges so you have a different viewpoint. I really think I like this texture paste really well. I may, because it's not as smooth, it's a little more, has a little more grit than the plaster, or at least than the smooth plaster, which I really like the smoother plaster. I may use maybe the texture paste to be my sand area, and use the plaster to be the water. I don't know. I'm sorry, Laurie. It feels like, I really feel like I'm working hard trying to do this well, which means I'm not working very fast. And I was hoping to be further along than this by now. But I'm sure you know how it is when things just come and kind of take over your life and you don't get as much done as you thought you would. You know, just normal stuff that happens to everybody. It's not like I'm being persecuted or anything. I just, oh, just not having time to get done the things I want to do. But I'm going to keep hopeful that I can have this finished by the middle of February so I can send it back to you then. Okay, so here's this tag so far. After this dries a little bit, I'll come back and did that get underneath? No. Okay. I'll come back and try to paint the sand a little bit. Okay, now that I've got some watercolor here, I'm going to paint this one with watercolor, and we're going to see how that works out. This was a, it's getting everywhere except where I want it, because I want it to be fairly liquidy. This is the Staedtler Cerulean Blue. So, it's not an expensive watercolor by any means. I don't have any that are really expensive, but this is cheap even by my standards. So, it's not dollar store by any means, but I do have some that are more expensive. And I thought it was a little greener than this, but it's painting very quickly and easily though. Covering pretty well. I've never done anything like this before. I'm having fun. But I didn't want to practice on the actual book cover, so I wanted to do these tags. They're two-dimensional, I think, to actually put in the book, but I'll just send them with it. She can do whatever she wants with them. I put this red matte here because even the black, and it looks like a matte black, but it's still got some shine to it, and it was really glaring up the screen, and I thought if I stick something on top of it, maybe it'll tone it down a little bit, and it did. I'm trying to figure out what kind of under thing I want. What I've been using is a vinyl wallpaper, and it's really durable, and I like that, but it makes my videos look kind of washed out, and so I'm trying to figure out something different to use. I may just go back to craft paper. I've got some. I just thought I'd try something else. I like the durability of the wallpaper. I just don't like what it does to how the light reacts and the camera reacts to it. Not like I'm trying to make a professional production here or anything, but I would like it to look as good as I can. You gotta turn it every direction to see. Make sure you're getting everything, or else you have these white places just peeking out. Like that one right there. There we go. feel like I've been making this video for a week. It's only been, I think, 3 days I've been doing stuff and letting it dry, so it's taken a lot longer than most of my videos take to make it. I just hope you think it's worth the time I took to make the video. I don't know. Maybe you'll get some information about if you want to use plaster or stuff like that. Okay, I'm running out here. Let's get a little more watercolor. Okay. That's what I needed. It's just a little bit more with a little more water. The brush was just too dry. I'll definitely have to clean these once I get them. Once they dry from being painted, I'll have to clean the acetate off because I'm still finding places over here that didn't get covered good. But the acetate's getting dirty. Another good reason to go ahead and put the alcohol ink and all your stuff inside it, inside the two pieces, is so you can clean it off when it needs it and you won't have to worry about messing it up. We're about to be through with this. Okay. So now I'll show you all 4 tags. This is the plaster, and this is when I mixed it pretty thick, and so you can see it's got a pretty grainy texture to it. I like the color okay. I'm not real fond, and I use the De La Rowney acrylic ink to do this, but I'm not real fond of the texture. I like the texture of this one better. It's more smooth, and I think it held on to things better because it was softer when I put the stuff in it. But it was so wet it bowed the board. I'm hoping gessoing my cover will keep that from happening. And this one I did with spackling from Dollar Tree and then painting over it. And it didn't bow the board at all. Of course, I didn't fill it up like I did these, so it's not a real test, but I like the way that looks. And it was really easy to do, and it dried much quicker than the plaster or the homemade texture paste. And this is the homemade texture paste, and it worked fine, but it's even grittier than the what is that? Spackle, than the spackle. Okay, I think I do want to paint over this a little bit, the sand, and I think I'm going to use watercolor because I think that'll maybe go right off of the shells and just paint on this. I don't know. We're going to have to see. But this is the set that blue came from, so I'm just going to use something out of here. to make my sand. Oh, goodness. Ooh, that one wasn't on good. It may be completely dried out. Well, not completely, but I don't know. Maybe a little raw umber and some white. Maybe that'll tone it down. I don't know. I have never tried to paint sand with watercolor before. So we'll just put a little bit of this in there. It's very dark. So we're going to put mostly white. And we will see how this does. Okay, let me get some water in here. Okay. Doesn't look particularly sandy, it just looks dirty. Maybe I need to add a little more brown. Okay. Those of you who do watercolor a lot, you're probably going, oh my goodness, Lisa. But I'm fully admitting I don't know what I'm doing, so. I don't know. Let's just go ahead and see what happens. This won't be the color I use on the cover of the book, probably, because I don't really like it. So we've learned that much at least. I didn't want to be the same color as the shells, so I didn't want, to put a bunch of yellow in it. Okay. Let me. All right. That's what that one looks like. Our sand looks like cement's what it really looks like. Oh dear. I'm getting stuff on the. No, I'm wiping off the paint. Okay. Got to add a little more paint back on there. Should have let this dry longer before I tried to touch it and do something else with it, but okay, that's that one. And I think I am going to add a little more just a little bit of this. Says, ooh, no, not that. Well, that one's dried out. I can't use it. That's what I was going to use. So we'll do something light here. It's probably too much. Okay. Let me clean my hands before I touch that one. Sorry about the notifications. I thought I had them all turned off. We must have got to update. Every time my computer updates, it messes up my settings. Okay. That white must be, I don't know. It's very opaque. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so opaque. I guess it has to be if it's going to combat all the other colors, but definitely won't be using this paint on my sand. Okay, here's this one. Let's compare them. And then the two plaster ones. Those are the four things I've been playing with, trying to decide how I'm going to make the cover. And so I hope you enjoyed watching me experiment. It's been fun. And I've learned a lot. Some things that I want to do and some things that I don't want to do. So next time I see you, I'll be working on the real book instead of peripheral things. God bless you. Bye-bye.